Hey everyone, welcome to this week's weekly options watch list. Hopefully you all had a wonderful, relaxing weekend and are looking forward to getting back to trading here come Monday. So before I get into the actual plays that I'm going to be looking at for the upcoming week, I'd like to do a breakdown of the indices and kind of what this market is looking like and where we could potentially see it go in the next few weeks or months. So that being said, let's start off here with the ES. So if we zoom in here a little bit, we can see we had this low compression squeeze fire to the downside, which gave us this very nasty last week here, pushing well below the -3 ATR. So one of the things that I'm actually going to be keeping my eye on this week is to see if we do have more selling or if we can finally maybe get a bounce off of these -3 ATR levels back to at least the 8 EMA or even more ideally the 21 EMA, and those would be places that I would definitely be looking to get short the overall market as a whole once it bounces back up to one of these levels due to its overall structure. Yes, looking quite bearish now on most time frames. On the daily, we no longer have stacked EMAs. Our price is holding well below the 21 EMA, so everything about it is definitely more bearish, and it has been breaking bullish structure here this entire last week. And now if we come to a weekly time frame, this is another reason why I'm also much more bearish on the market as a whole. We do still have stacked EMAs, but if we look here at the price action, we are closing well below that 21 EMA, and we're closing in on this 50 simple moving average. That could also be a level of support potentially, but the main thing that I'm actually looking at is the monthly chart now. So if our weekly starts breaking down, always go to the next higher time frame, and that is your monthly, and that's where you could potentially see levels of support. So the one thing that I've been looking at closely is that we had this monthly squeeze fire, which basically gave us this huge bull run in 2021. You got extended up here at these +3 ATR levels, and what the stock is usually going to do at those levels is revert back down to either the 8 or even more commonly the 21 EMA. So it's just a reversion to the mean. We also can see that we have lost the momentum here with these light blue bars, our good bullish momentum. We're starting to lose that momentum, which means that we easily could see a retest of this monthly 21 EMA in the next few months. So this is a level that I'm keeping my eye on very closely, and it should act as a good support for the overall market as a whole if we do see a lot more selling coming into the market. So another thing to look at here on the ES for just some support levels, if we pull up this. So on a support level we used to have back here, broke right through it. The next place we can look at is at this previous head and shoulders bottom, and if we kind of put it in the middle of that, we have a support down here around, we'll just say 4,300-ish. That could potentially be another level of support to keep your eye on for a bounce. But what I am looking for this week is an ideal reversion back up to either that 8 EMA or that 21 EMA. Now going on to the Qs here, if it will load, here we go. So the Qs is one of the main things that did bring this market lower. It has been seeing some extreme selling, and if we come in here a little closer, this squeeze did fire to the downside just like the ESs did, which gave us this strong movement, and you could have played this. This was an ideal situation to where you get this fall below the 21, you're breaking structure, you get this push down to almost -3 ATR, you get your nice reversion directly to that 21 EMA, it rejects it there, the next day it comes right back to the level again and rejects it one more time. That was, these 2 days right here are your perfect entries on shorts on anything in tech regarding that, and also accompanied with this squeeze firing on this day, which gives you this large move. So this was definitely an ideal entry if for any shorts that you wanted to get into this week, and luckily I did get into one in Facebook to where I did collect some nice premium on this move to the downside in the Qs overall. So now if we go to the higher time frames, we can see kind of similar things to the ES. This one is holding even below the 50 simple, well below the 21 EMA and is pushing down to this -2 ATR, that's going to be the kind of the next area that I'll be looking for, potentially maybe some support here on the weekly time frame. But then if we come to the monthly, just like the ES, breaking down off of these +3 ATR levels, breaking through the 8 EMA, and on the monthly level time frame, the next support I'm looking at is that 21 EMA, and we are losing that momentum here on the squeeze histogram, so it easily could see it hit that level eventually over the next few months. On the daily time frame though, some things I want to look at are the fact that we have had some support down here previously, and that's exactly where price action is right now. And with it being so extended to the downside, we easily could get a bounce here in the market early in the week, giving us that reversion, followed by, I'm assuming, more selling in the market to come. Just what I'm seeing does not mean it has to happen, but that's what I'm reading from the charts right now. Next one here is the Dow. Similar story here. We have the large sell-off accompanied by that squeeze firing to that downside. If we come to the weekly time frame, this one is holding well below the 21, well below the 50, and then if we look for an next potential level of support, it is going to be that -2 ATR level or region, and then coming to that monthly time frame again on this one. Also losing that momentum on the squeeze histogram. We're closing below the 8 EMA as it used to be holding it perfectly, and now we should be looking for this 21 EMA to be our level of support going forward. And then on the daily time frame, some just other levels we need to be keeping our eyes on. So if we come back here, we can draw on this level where price action is close to it, so we could see that level hit and a bounce off of that, or we could come back down to these previous lows where they bottomed out here as a level of support as well. So keep your eyes on both of those levels to act as levels of support, and we should see some bounces off of them. Alright, last but not least here on the list, we do have the Russell. And the Russell, for a long time now, has been looking more bearish than any other indice. We have been completely breaking all structure of anything. We used to have strong support back up here, and it was across for the last year. It's been support at this level. Finally did break below that, giving us a strong push to the downside. We do have negatively stacked EMA, so that is very bearish. And then another thing to note here is if we look at the weekly time frame, this weekly squeeze is firing to the downside, and you could have played this if you wanted to. I unfortunately did not. You get your closes below the 21 EMA, it reverts, rejects it, it gets close to the 8, rejects it, comes right up to the 8 and can't close above it. You tried to close above it here, but you can't, and you're still sitting below it. And with this squeeze histogram gaining more bearish momentum, that was your perfect entry, was this week right here, to catch this move all the way down to that -2 ATR. So this squeeze is still firing to the downside, so this could give us about 8 more weeks of weakness coming into this stock or this indice as a whole. And next level I'm kind of looking for support here is that -3 ATR level, which it easily could hit with this squeeze firing to that downside. Now if we come to the monthly time frame on this one definitely looks the worst due to the fact that it is closing below its 21 EMA. So on the monthly time frame, I'm going to be looking for that 50 simple as the next level for support on a monthly time frame. With this one as well. So everything in the overall market is looking quite weak. That being said, it is at overextended levels to the downside to where we potentially could get a bounce early in the week. So that being said, I do have a few plays that are to the long side, and I do have a few plays that are to the short side depending on what the market gives us this week. So the first one here is actually going to be beyond to the downside. It's been in a strong downtrend here for a few months. We have negatively stacked DMAs. We're getting this bearish momentum on the squeeze histogram with it below that 0 line. And price action has been holding below that 21 EMA here for a very long time and cannot recapture it. So my ideal situation here is if we do get a bounce here in the market, hoping that beyond can get back up to this 21 EMA. If we can get to that level, that is the level I'm going to want to short it at. So definitely looking good to the downside and beyond, with the overall market also looking weak. This could be a strong mover. Next one here is also to the downside. It is Dropbox. You can see you had this big fall, consolidation, just building this squeeze, waiting for its next move. So we can see we have negatively stacked DMAs, bearish momentum on the squeeze, price holding below the 21. Just like Beyond, want that price to bounce back up to the 21 EMA for an entry, and then look for that fall back down to a -2 or a -3 ATR to take profits. So this one is looking good, just like Beyond, to the downside. Next one I'm looking at here is actually to the upside, in case this market does want to keep bouncing and reverting back up to the mean, giving us some buying pressure. This should push Pepsi up as well. We have a daily squeeze setting up with our histogram above that zero line. Our price has been holding the 21 EMA perfectly for the last about month, I'd say here. And ideally, I would get another flush down to this 21 EMA for an entry before it should push, if we do get a market, to get some buys back to the upside. So this one is looking good to the upside as well. And then the next one to the upside is well here. And just like Pepsi, it's been holding that 21 EMA very nicely. Our histogram is above zero. We have stacked DMAs that are positive. So everything about this structure is very bullish. And if the market cooperates, this could be a nice move along with Pepsi to the upside. All right, last one on the list here I have is Walmart, and this one is to the downside. And if we look at it here, we can see we do not have any stacked DMAs negatively or positively. Our histogram is getting close to falling below that zero line, and the main thing I'm looking at here is that our price action has been falling below the 21 EMA and cannot reclaim that level, as it tried to push up here but then just got rejected. So we easily could see more selling back down into these lows. So this is the weekly watch list. Hopefully it gives you all a few other things to be looking at the overall market, and a few plays you could also add to your watch list. Hopefully you all have a great trading week.